Vacation.
Yes, I am.
I can't believe you took one.
I am.
Okay, here we go.
Allergies are acting up today.
And it's not playing.
Uh-oh.
All right. Get rid of that.
I like your little hand guy there.
Yeah, I got
Your
stuck.
big hand guy.
I'm stuck. It's too much for my laptop. I was afraid of
I'm
that.
surprised Marty's not here.
Let me get rid of a few things. Here we go. I'm stuck. All righty. Hi there, Ann. Can you hear us?
I can.
All right. Hi. Welcome, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all you guys out there. So we had a little technical difficulties in the beginning there. We are back on here. I have 3 guests from Best Chance. Now, that's an organization that helps people coming out of prison, help them with jobs and housing and clothing and things like that. I'll get to these guys in just a minute. Introduce our founder of Wings for Life, AnnEdenfield Sweet. She's with us remotely, and she's going to give you a quick update on what happened this week at Wings for Life.
Well, thanks, Sean. Yeah, it's exciting. And with technology, we could be anywhere. So I happen to be out in Las Vegas, Nevada right now, visiting family. So that's lovely. But we've had another exciting week. On Monday night, we had Gangs Part 2. We had 3 former gang members talking about gang life. And what I always find so interesting when I talk to them is they always say there are only 2 choices. It doesn't matter how many yachts, airplanes, fancy cars, women, fancy life. There are 2 choices, but ultimately, if you join a gang, and it's death and incarceration. And I don't think those are the choices that anybody wants. And so, of course, we give them that 3rd choice that I always say, you're forgetting that 3rd choice. And now they're all making that 3rd choice, is to go family, is the way they call it, when they get out of prison, get out of the gang, and the gangs apparently let them go family. And that's what these guys are doing. And so we're calling them our Wings Power Team, and to be the power to get away from the gangs and empower for a new life. Now, this Monday night, we've got a very exciting guest. Charles Rogers is his name. He has that universal story about incarceration. African-American man, growing up in all the projects, trying to help his mom stay away from abusive boyfriends and all the drugs and the alcohol. Of course, he got involved in gangs. He ended up being sentenced before, when he was still 17, before 18, ended up in the Angola prison. And of course, that used to be the most notorious, worst prison in the world. And he ended up there, but then Burl Kane came in as the warden and changed things there. And then Charles Rogers got involved even in their seminarian program. And then Oprah came in and did a documentary about that seminarian program. And the staff got to know him, heard his story. And then, irony of all ironies, the man who sentenced him was the father of the new judge that actually ended up releasing him and saying you were underage, and gave him a second chance and actually released him from prison. He is now out, a very productive, returning citizen, and he has quite a remarkable story. And I hope you'll join us Monday night for that. So that's going to be a great, great talk. And Charles is just, one of those really amazing men who has overcome all this adversity in their lives and in his life, just like all these men that you're going to meet today that I know, and I'm so proud of all of them and what they're doing. So anyway, we just join us every Monday night, 6:00, anywhere in the world. It's Zoom. We're getting more and more prisons to be joining us from the state of New Mexico. We've just, another thing that we've done, we've mailed off a flash drive to the prisons in Ohio. Right now, they still don't have the ability. That's my phone. Sorry about that ringing. They don't have the ability yet to let inmates join, of course, just open internet. And so we put a flash drive together with 34 of our first tape programs. Now we've got over 100 tape programs. And we are happy to do that and send this off to any prison or any jail, or really any halfway house if they don't allow access to the internet. So I would say that's probably my news, and I'm just going to listen in and hear what the rest of the guys have to say, unless there are any other questions. Are there any questions, Sean, in the chat room there?
Well, I got something for you here. You see that?
Okay.
The KJ Effect says, "Hey, Ann."
Hey, and I say, "Hey, KJ Effect, we're glad you're here."
And then we got Katrina. You know her. She's saying hi. Thanks for coming back again this week, Katrina.
Absolutely, Katrina. We're glad to see you.
Yeah, and the rest, they're. We got Katrina. Love your outfit, Ann. Hey, there you go.
I don't have my wing shirt on today.
She's never seen you without the wing shirt.
Yeah, usually I'm wearing that shirt.
We got TJ says, "Hey, Sean, you're doing great things with Wings for Life. Keep up the great work. You're truly appreciated. Thank you too, TJ." And Katrina again, "Hi, TJ. You're right." And that looks like Katrina's talking to TJ about her son. That's good that it's a chat room as well. And Kathy D from Australia.
Oh, wow. She's joining us again today. Hi, Kathy.
I know she's got a son in prison down under. 8 years, right? He gets out. I remember. See, I remember, Kathy. And we'll have more. So anyway, thanks, Ann. Enjoy yourself out there. I know you need this break. We're holding down the fort for you.
I know you are. I don't have any qualms whatsoever. So
all right.
Thanks to all the listeners. And I'll be back next week for Wings Week in Review.
All right. Thanks, Ann. Okay. I'm going to get rid of her. Not banned.
Get rid of me.
Yeah, man, you got open mic there, buddy.
I know. It says
that was artful use of language.
Wow,
It does.
What would he just say about us when we leave? Man, you know?
I said ban the guest or kick the guest. I don't know. What would you do? I don't know. So anyways, guys, I got Gary, I got Benjamin, I got Stanley, and they all work for Best Chance, which is an organization out of Albuquerque, New Mexico here. And if you get out of prison, these are the guys you want to go see. They will help you out from day one. I was hoping they'd all maybe tell a little bit about themselves, maybe about their first week in prison, if you guys can remember that far back. And then when you first week out of prison and what you do now. And you guys all have happy endings. These are all guys who've been to prison, and now they have happy ending. I love happy endings. So we'll start with you there, Gary.
Okay, well, I'm going to start off with the second time I went to prison. I was 66 years old, and the judge sentenced me, and she told me that I would be lucky to get a job greeting people at Walmart when I got out at the age of 68. And I really got kind of, as I've always been self-employed all my life, and I was kind of upset about that, but I was also starting to doubt myself. So my first day in prison at the farm, I heard a knock on the door, and it was Project Echo asking me if I wanted to do Project Echo. I didn't even know what it was, but it was an organization that taught me how to facilitate groups and help men about, teach men about diseases in prison, Hep C, etc. I really liked what I was doing, and that helped me formulate a plan for when I got out of prison. So I got out in November of 2018, and I enrolled at CNM in Human Services. And then I got certificates as a peer support worker through the state of New Mexico, a certified community health worker. I've gotten certificates now as a QPR instructor in about suicides, and I'm a SOAR agent and various other things. And I just believe now that you don't die until you're dead.
Life's not over.
And and so I'm not even pissed off at that judge anymore, because I felt like she gave me this gauntlet, and I accepted it. And I love what I'm doing. And I had 3 jobs at one time, and I had never applied for any of them. And Stanley was gracious enough to give me a job there in January of 2019. And so that's my story, and that's why I'm here today.
That's great. I mean, I was 52 when I went to prison. I thought I was old. I get there, there's guys in their 70s, and they're not. I mean, I'm a youngster. I'm like, what? I thought, the older people, and then
You're still a kid.
And yeah, see, and then to think you're gonna have a life when you get out of prison. See, I love that story. In your 60s, and you're still somebody
I'm
hired.
71 now.
Yeah, you're more than a greeter at Walmart. You're greeting them.
I greet people out of prison now.
Yeah.
That's a pretty mean thing for a judge to say.
Yeah, that's all right.
So how about you, Benjamin?
I did 16 and a half years in the federal prison system this time. I've been to prison 4 times in my life. My first time I was 17 years old. And my first week back then in prison was pretty scary. It was pretty.
Yeah, at 17.
I turned 18 in Grants, in the RDC, as they call it, and that was in the state prison. So I was pretty freaked out. It was a pretty dangerous place back then. And then this last time around, I was a completely different person by then. I went back to prison after getting my life back together. I was married with a son and a house and everything, and they hit me with the old case. And the feds prosecuted me and took me to prison. And so I got out, and I actually, one of the first people I called was my peer support worker at Best Chance. Rory's not here today.
Yeah, I've heard good things about Rory. I want to get him on here one of these days too.
And actually I was, called about this job. They saw something in me that they liked and called me in for an interview. And really, these guys mentored me, sometimes with hugs, sometimes with kicks and punches, and got me.
I know that sometimes
to this place in my
get
life. So I've been with them for a little over a year now, and it's really something that I did naturally anyways, like mentoring people and being kind of a role model, like, in prison, and talking to people about things and choices when they get out. And and then now I get to do that for a living. So, it's a great job, and it feels great to be able to help people, and see just the change that people can make when they really want to change, and they get to that point where they come into us and they're asking for help. And for a lot of guys, that's the hardest thing to do, is ask anybody for help. So when they make that first step, like, you just see guys, and the sky's the limit. Like, we're all, but like, me starting off there, I didn't have anything, and now I'm married with a home, a great, relationship with my family. I have 2 jobs. I mean, I teach classes with these guys. We just do a lot of stuff. So life has definitely changed. And if I could do it after all the time and all the places I've been, then I feel like anybody could do it.
And your son's coming to visit for
My
a
son's
week.
coming.
Wow.
He's coming
That's going to be
tomorrow, yeah.
special.
The thing about Benjamin, though, he has a famous saying, his chance. And what it is he overcame humility.
You like that one.
He does like that. He does like that when I said that. Yeah.
Well, I know when I got out of prison, I just had the clothes on my back. I mean, I was so broke. I even brought my shampoo and soap from prison because I knew the halfway house. I didn't know if they'd have it, but I mean, I had no clothes and nothing, so I know the feeling.
Yeah.
So like when somebody walks through this door and somebody walks through your door, do you guys see yourself?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing what it's amazing how grateful guys are just to get a t-shirt and some soap and things
Socks.
Socks especially.
Yeah, socks.
It makes them
Socks are
feel
big.
human.
Yeah.
And that's what Best
New
Chance
stuff.
does. It I think it gives people back their humanity in a quicker way than they would normally. I mean,
Right.
and what's great too is when we take guys to like the motor vehicle department and stuff to get their IDs, how helpful the people are behind the windows that are helping them.
Yeah.
I keep telling guys, learning how to ask for help is. In fact, I
It's
even
not
heard
easy sometimes.
I heard an interview on the TV the other day, and I was at my computer and I had the TV on. As this actress was being interviewed. I forgot who it was, but she said, "My greatest strength is knowing how to ask for help." I think that's what we try to get guys to do is learn how to ask for help.
Yeah, we don't always look coming out of prison too. I mean, you got that.
You think no one wants to help you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You think that everybody's going to turn against you or go, oh man, you've been in prison. But this is not the way it is.
None of those places really help. Yeah, I've heard about it. You hear all the negativity, and you get out and there are some places that won't help you.
Sure.
I experienced that in Oakland, one of these places that help people out of prison. But since I came from the federal system, they weren't going to help me, and they basically just gave me a list of services, and that was that.
We have great
Yeah.
word of mouth out about us. Like most of our clientele comes from guys that are telling other guys that are getting out about us. Like, hey, you need to go over there. Like, you need to get, you need help because it's very overwhelming and stressful getting out of prison. And for a lot of guys that don't have any support at all, we're the only support that they have.
Some of these viewers have members in prison, and I know they're not all in the Albuquerque county, but in town. But can somebody, like in the feds, we have an email, or in the state prison, can they write you guys while they're in prison and
Yeah.
set something up? Or
We write letters. We have people that that sadly that go back to prison that stay in touch with us, and so we write them, and we also write new people that are going to be getting out that hear about our program and that are wondering what we do or looking for certain kinds of assistance, and they're being proactive with their life because they're thinking about when they're getting out, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? And so we get a lot of word of mouth about that. We respond to all letters from prison. We get a bunch of
see, I
letters.
wrote a lot of letters, and you don't get many back when you're in prison. To get a letter from somebody like you it gives you hope while you're in prison. Oh, they wrote me back. Now I can make a plan. Maybe I can actually have a life when I get out. To get that letter back. That's huge, man. That's huge to get a letter in prison.
We've found all the different things in the state about how we're finding more things keep happening where they won't accept certain kinds of letters. So we found how to get them to them. If they don't take a certain kind of paper or color or ink. Yeah, it's a big.
Right.
So
right.
Colored ink is big.
Colored ink. Yeah, so we know what to send to get. So when people from in there write us, and they. And a lot of our guys, they if something happens and they go back, they write us. We ask pointed questions about what we could do better to help them, and what could possibly have been something that was a barrier to them when they were out here to why they went back. Not,
Yeah.
a lot of things can happen to get you sent back to prison.
Right.
The ultimate thing, though, would be for us to be able to go into the prison.
Yeah.
Because, so many guys, when they get out of prison, all they see is the guys coming back to prison going, well, probation and parole sent me back. It's really hard. It's impossible to do. So they never hear the success stories. All they hear is people coming back, and it scares the hell out of you. And I think when you come out of prison, that's the thing you're scared about the most is, how am I going to deal with parole? And so if you could hear more success stories while you're still in prison.
Exactly. No, I agree.
Yeah, we're not going back in there like, hey, we just came back for a visit.
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
the guys are coming back, or the guys
And help people formulate plans so when they get out of prison, they're ready to go.
Yeah, one of my hopes is I could go back to Florence, Colorado, and go to that same prison I was at, tell the guy as a guest, and let them know, hey, when you get out, get a hold of me. I will help you personally. I sat right there in that chair where you were at.
Right.
It's funny you mentioned being a guest. We had a program participant come, and he spoke with a British accent, and he's a U.S. citizen, but he did a crime and got busted in London. And he said, I was a guest of the Queen, but she didn't have me staying at Buckingham Palace. No,
well, he had dual citizenship.
He did.
Her
He
Majesty
did.
the
And
Queen.
he did. That's
There is
right.
that.
But when you talk about that feeling of being overwhelmed when you're first released, I think that's why we started the organization. We had the sense that being incarcerated is bad enough. The fear and the number of things you have to have accomplished after 16 and a half years, or after 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, or 7 years, even 2 years. It's like a time traveler. The phone is different. The world's changed. You don't know what to expect. But someone said, to me, I thought over the years, the best compliment was, well, it doesn't really feel like a program. It feels like a bunch of old pintos trying to help you out, And it felt good because I see people come in, you can see the body language is still tense. It's like, what's this going to be?
Are we going to get charged for this?
Oh, you're going to charge. I do tell them if they want to use the bathroom, it's 25 cents, but they all smile. They know I'm not going to do that.
Leave a stamp.
Yeah, that's right. But it's funny. You see them come in, and usually within 5, 10, 15 minutes, everything it's just beginning to feel right. We work hard at creating the right vibe. There's some paperwork you do just so we could keep good records of who we helped and how many and what services everyone got. But in the training we do internally, we just say, welcome people home, ask them how long they were down, and it was like, and acknowledge that it's overwhelming. And after a while, you see that what we're doing.
But you let them know they're amongst kind of family. It's been
it's family.
It's always amazed that when we do the intake, when we finally get to a point where we let them know that we are also been in prison.
Right.
That's
Well,
when
that
they
makes a difference.
relax.
That makes because I'm in recovery too, and the only person that could actually help me was another addict. You know what I mean? All the psychiatrists and doctors in the world, you don't understand where I've been. So and
that's a common complaint.
And I hear that a lot also.
Book learning.
You,
They call
I
it
feel
book
like
learning.
you give
Right.
me, a lot of people say, like, I feel like you understand. I'm like, well, no, I've sat right there in that chair.
I wanted to get to you, Stanley. You got a story too now. Did you were once, weren't you? Didn't you? Once upon a time.
I have more of it there, but the grace of God go I had anger management issues, and I remember early in my life something really inconsequential happened, but I was ready to kill a guy named Ronnie Rubin. I had a butcher knife this long in my hand, and I walked down a number of flights of stairs in Philadelphia, walking the streets, and the thought occurred to me, if Ronnie Rubin turns that corner, it's not going to end well for him. And the rage was so crazy, I didn't even know where he lived, but I'm walking the streets of Philadelphia with a knife. And then the next thought was, if Ronnie Rubin turns that corner, it's not going to end well for you either. And I sort of tucked the knife in and whatever. I had other issues, and you can imagine Well, I was high, not in the 60s like everyone else. I was a little bit ahead of the loop in the 50s.
You're a beatnik.
I had older brothers. I was a musician and
That's a
in
beatnik.
a big city. So yeah, but I valued my brain, and I thankfully I went to seek help and found a psychiatrist who was very helpful, and I'm grateful to this day that it just made me more comfortable in my own skin. But it was around more than 10 years now. I read a book and it said younger next year, and I was about to retire. And the book said, if you want to stay young, if someone asks you to do something, say yes. Otherwise, you become more and more isolated. So there was a letter from a guy called Big John. Big John Wiener wrote from one of the facilities, and he was in P&M in Santa Fe, and there was a meditation and mindfulness program there. He found it helpful, and he wrote to the Albuquerque Zen Center and said, "Is there someone who teaches meditation who would come?" And they turned to me. They knew I was retiring, and I was teaching the meditation beginners class. They said, "Would you go?" And I just read the book, said, when someone asks you to do something, say yes. So I said yes. I found the guys really helpful. I was carrying copies of Bo Lazov's We're All Doing Time book. I had 40 copies with me, and an old man. And someone young and strong came along and said, "Could I help you with that?" And I thought, oh, I'm comfortable already. So I went for 10 years, I went and was a volunteer, visited prisons twice a week, and most of the prisons in New Mexico. Yeah.
Let me check out some of these comments real quick, because I don't want to ignore you guys. If you're asking questions, I'll try to read and answer every one of your comments. I know we got to Katrina. Any news on your son? So Katrina, they're all getting to know her. She's got a son that's in the feds, but he's held in a detention center right now. It's been there like 8 months, and they still won't ship him out to. Supposed to go to a camp, maybe a low, but they still won't ship him out. Diesel therapy he's been going through, so she's been going through it. Frustrated. They were talking to her. Sean, do any of these guys know anything about the halfway houses in Detroit, Michigan? There's a question for you guys.
None.
I don't know anything about a halfway house in Detroit, Michigan, but they're all the federal halfway houses are similar, because it's just like the prisons are similar, the halfway houses are similar, where you get a job and can get your life going again, and at a certain point you work yourself up to being able to get maybe some sort of visitation. With the COVID stuff, I don't know how it is in Detroit, but
I understand this one's not given the, I used to get the 4-hour pass and the 8 hour.
Yeah, they're not doing that. No, they're not doing that like they used to. No, I don't know if it's the COVID. They had went and started it for a while where they were giving you like passes to go to church and different things like that, and then it's a lot of the COVID is the excuse for what's happening.
But you know what? Stanley and I had this conversation this morning, and I asked him
about Detroit.
No, about halfway
I have
houses.
a Detroit story though.
About halfway houses, because we have state halfway houses and we have the federal.
Yeah.
The state guys tend to cancel appointments a lot more than all the time. They tend to go, "Oh, I forgot what it is." And the federal guys, they always come to the appointments because they pretty much have to, because they got to make that appointment. They have to go.
Yeah.
And the state guys are always talking about all the drugs that are in their halfway house, about how it's like you're trying to recover, but all your roommates have drugs, or there's everywhere. You don't get that from federal guys talking about their drugs and they're having to deal with that. And I'm kind of wondering, and I know that the federal halfway house is not fair in lots of ways, and it is very strict. But I was hoping that I was asking Stanley, I said it'd be interesting sometime to see what our go back rates are between the guys federal and state halfway houses and the guys in the federal halfway houses, because it's like even Benjamin always says, your parole officer is a resource,
Yeah.
And sometimes these strict halfway house might be a pain in the neck. It might not be fair.
They're saving lives,
but it's doable,
Sure.
and maybe those guys have more of a chance to get going instead of guys that are exposed to drugs and stuff and all in the halfway houses where they're living,
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting sometimes to take a look at it, because
I did my time in the San Francisco halfway house. It's
Uh-huh.
a 4-story building, holds about 300 people. The
Wow.
4th floor was all state. The 3rd floor was female feds, and the 2nd floor was male feds. And so we got to all intermix, you know. The state guys had it easier, and they had lesser rules and all that. But mainly the fed guys were at least 1 or 2 a week was violated and going back. But some guys were just come back drunk, not even care. Even though you get breathalyzed and searched and
Yeah.
everything else, they just didn't care. A lot of guys just relapsed and couldn't do it, or they don't show up at their job and they go over some girl's house and
Yeah.
they sidetrack, and they're always getting caught for that. But the state guys, you know, they didn't have to pay any money. I had to pay 25% of my income. The state guys, they had to give half their check up, but they got it when they left, their paycheck, and they held it for them. And the state guys would help them find an apartment. They had resources for that. Us Fed guys were on our own. It was I got my job because somebody. I worked at a St. Anthony's Foundation washing dishes because other guys in the halfway house got me that job. You know, so that's what I did when I got there. But you know,
So every state's a lot different. You never
Yeah.
know.
Because I didn't see a lot of people going back to prison in the halfway house, and I mean, a guy here and there, but I mean, not as much as I mean, when you do so much time, it's kind of hard to get out and say, okay, well, I just did 10 years and I'm going to get in trouble and go back to prison. But people do go back to prison.
well, mine was in the Tenderloin, which is like Skid Row. You walk out the door, and literally guys are sitting and we're shooting
Yeah.
up. I mean, drugs are. You get hit up walking just to Market Street to catch the bus. I'd have 3 or 4 dealers hit me. What do you need? What do you need? Dude, I just came out of the halfway house. Yeah, what do you need? They didn't care. It was that kind of neighborhood. So the temptation, you know, I had to have strong recovery then.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
I really did. But
Yeah, when you're not looking for it, it finds you.
yeah, and they told me I was the only one to put in requests to go to AA member meetings out of 300 people.
Huh.
And I
Wow.
couldn't believe that. And they said, we haven't had one of these in like a year, a request to go to AA meeting. So that tells you something. It's the mindset. I don't know.
We just purchased or I purchased, and it'll be associated with Best Chance. We have service enhanced housing. We have it's a 4-plex. I live with the guys. I wanted to find out more about housing and have the direct experience, but we're housing federal people and state
That's
people.
so they mix, and that's okay with
and,
probation
and,
and parole.
yeah, and yes,
They
they were
don't
both.
mind that they're mixed.
No, and they were approved by both bodies, and it turns out that it feels like a community. It's kind of nice. That someone's car didn't work one day, and one of the other guys came and laid on hands, and the next morning it was working. He had a set of tools and made something happen, and he diagnosed my car. Had I listened to him, it would still be running today, but we work on that. But it's something happened that I think people might want to figure out what's it mean. But on Christmas Eve, I had some of the guys who first moved in. I said, come on in, we'll cook a meal together and eat. We cooked a meal. We were talking about this today too. It was interesting. We had this meal and it was simple. It was a spaghetti meat sauce and salad and some other stuff. But we sat down, ate, and had a nice conversation. And one of the guys said, this is the first time in my life I sat and had a meal that someone prepared and served, and we just sat at a table together and just talked. And I thought,
Yeah.
that means you probably didn't have a family experience. And some of the people understand that when we have support groups at our place, we always have a meal with it. My thought was, we want to be kind of the family you didn't have if you never had one that was supportive that way. It's
No, you have to
You-
go to
you
our
guys
place and
do
eat.
You guys do 2 meals a week? Right?
Yeah.
Is that what you guys?
yeah.
Wednesdays and
and
Saturdays.
Saturdays?
You gotta come over for some food.
And
I could. I don't have to be a client.
Yeah.
I could come over.
No,
we have a lot of guests.
Oh,
We have
okay,
yes.
okay, okay.
We even have
Like
female
We
guests.
even have people that come that haven't been there for years that show up.
Really?
just
Okay.
Say like,
Stanley makes a mean
I got a
jambalaya.
new car.
Yeah,
Remember the guy came in a couple weeks ago, wanted to show me his car.
Yeah,
He
right.
got out of
Huh.
prison about a year ago, and
I want to
he's
show you
got a
he's
car. He
doing
wanted to
well.
show me his new car.
Yeah, once a member there, always a member there.
Oh, okay.
We used to-
Alumni forever. Kind
Right.
Of. All right. Okay.
Yeah, but you're always welcome to come and observe, see what we
Yeah.
do, and have a meal.
All right. Yeah.
We have good
Yeah,
food.
we have a lot of guests. I mean, we had Olga, right?
Mhm.
Olga comes, Basra.
Chris and McGee came by from Project Echo, and
Yeah.
Well, we have volunteers, donors, board members.
We have Nick,
Actually,
of course.
yeah, Nick from Project
Nick,
Echo.
who called in last time I was on your broadcast.
Yeah, I'm trying to get. I just sent some email about the Echo Project Echo. I'm trying to get one of these guys
And
on.
Gary's done a lot of work with them,
Okay.
and our trainer, our first program director, is working directly with Project Echo, and I think Ambrosia called last time I was here. But you mentioned Detroit, and it reminds me to give a shout out to our board members. But one of our board members grew up in Detroit, and he's been in films. He's done some acting, but he was also a defense attorney. Interesting fellow. But his story goes like this: he got into crossways with someone in the neighborhoods in the hood in Detroit, and he showed up at his house to kill him with a gun. He rang the doorbell, and the guy's mother came out, and he had that moment when he thought, "I'm not going to shoot someone's mother," and he just, it was just enough to stop and reflect about what was about to happen.
That
It was
moment
like,
of clarity.
it was like my idea of it's not going to end well for Ronnie, and it wouldn't end for me. But at some point, everyone we work with can have those moments. Just slow down, a little less impulse control, more impulse control, less impulsive action, and life gets easier. It also becomes easier as you get older, don't you think? Maybe.
Mhm.
I think so. Less testosterone or something.
Well, you know, you meet a guy that's been
I
in
catch
prison.
up on these comments.
Oh, you got comments?
Yeah, let me catch up on these guys.
Sure.
It's,
Katrina says, Kathy D, yes, considering he is already eligible to be in a halfway house, only 9.5 months left, even before they give him First Step Act credits. He's talking about that Detroit halfway house.
Okay.
Kathy D from Australia, she says, that's sad it's taking so long. And he's been there 16 months.
Wow.
Yeah, still in detention center waiting to get, he's been sentenced in a county jail, she says.
Yeah,
16
that's
months.
pretty bad. I've been there for 7
Not good.
months. but I
Yeah,
had,
Sally, how you doing, Sally? She's new on here. Bella, how did each of you overcome ignorance of the general public interpretation of being an ex-convict being
negative.
negative? Oh, there you go.
Can I
Good.
just
Go. I want all three of you guys to answer that one.
everyone might have a different perspective, and that we respect that and encourage it. But my thought is the whole idea of stigma is somewhat exaggerated. The social stigma, it exists, and it's a problem. We should all work to reduce it. To me, the biggest problem and impediment to progress is self-stigma. If you have bad opinion of yourself or think that nothing's possible, that's worse than anything society does. Right now, we see that anyone who shows up for work with
Get
a
a job.
positive everyone's getting
Everybody's getting it. It's
Everyone's
the best time in the
everyone's
world to
getting a
get out
job.
of prison. Like, there's not a bad time to get out of prison, but this is a good time
Yeah,
because
right.
there's so much work out there. And right now, that stigma about you're being an ex-convict is not holding people back from getting jobs.
No.
I'll tell you that right now. And you know, I think there used to be more of a negative stigma about being an ex-convict than there is now. And there's more. Like, every time I tell somebody what I do, like in my day job is what I call it. In my day job, I help people getting out of prison transition back into society. And I've never had one person say, "Well, that's horrible. Why would you
help
them?
somebody like that?
Why
Yeah.
would you help them?"
Right,
Or they always say, "That's really good. Like, I would like to learn more about that." Instead of, I don't think it's as, but I'm not everywhere in the world, obviously.
It
Right,
still
right.
exists. There's some jobs, if
It
you've
does.
been convicted of fraud, or for instance, they might not hire you as a bookkeeper. And some people won't rent to someone who has a conviction for arson.
They're desperate for teachers, but they won't hire ex-cons.
I strongly
And I think
believe,
we
though,
make good teachers.
I strongly believe, though, the way you overcome the stigma is telling your story.
Yeah.
There
You
go.
know, you have to know how to tell your story. And if you can tell your story, and you can make somebody want to help you. You can make somebody believe in you. if you learn how to tell that story about who you are today, not about, why you went to prison, but who you are today, and you can make them believe that you're trying to change, people want to help you. I mean, I don't care what you're doing. There's always going to be someone that's going to try to put you down and stuff. But, I go on the, remember the 6 degrees of separation? I go on the 2 degrees of separation, because nowadays there are more families and people affected by knowing somebody in prison and knowing somebody that has a drug problem. Even the president of the United States has a son that had a drug problem. But that's just it. It's just widespread now. And so I think there's a lot more empathy out there for what people might have gone through,
Right. Absolutely. When I recruited the first board of directors, I wasn't thinking about who might be related to someone in the system, but it turned out the first person I recruited had a son in the system.
Yeah.
The first treasurer we had in the drug issues affect so many people. It would be almost impossible to recruit a board where people didn't have that experience. And one of our board members, who's a brilliant financial analyst that functions as our treasurer, had a brother pass away from an overdose. So everyone's affected by this. And I think there's a growing movement to end mass incarceration and some of the injustice in the criminal justice system. So
part of me
people
feels
are working on that.
Part of me feels I did my time. I paid my debt to society, and I've even forgiven myself. Why won't you forgive me? That's part of that's anger too. But it takes a lot of work to change the way. Before I went to prison, and now I'm two different people.
Sure.
Prison actually woke me up, saved my life, got me off drugs, and made me work on my body, my mind, my soul, my spirit. I mean, I put a lot of work in just becoming what I am today, which isn't much, but I'm a lot better than I was before I went to prison.
Don't put yourself down.
No, I mean, today I'd say I think I'm a good person, but I didn't even think that before I went to prison. And people told me that too.
And that's like what Stanley said, is self stigma is what people need to overcome.
Yeah.
I don't even ever think about it, to tell you the truth, really, what people think of me for being in prison. I mean, I made a lot of decisions in my life, but here I am now, and I'm definitely a survivor.
I've had more people. Okay, so the first test is when you go to a party, right?
Yeah.
So you go to a party, and what's the first thing someone's going to ask you usually?
What do you do for a living?
What do you do for a living? Well, or okay, so tell them your story about being in prison, and the next thing you know, you got a crowd.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I memean, because your story. I always tell guys it's like an obituary, where your life's an apostrophe. It's you still have the ability to finish your story as the way you want it to finish. If you died today, what would your obituary say as opposed to how you would want it to be when you die in some time in the future?
We did in prison. We all had to do a reenactment of our funeral in RDAP, and
really
lay down on the table like you write your own funeral script. People read what they think about you.
Oh, wow.
It was a whole exercise. But
wow. You did that in an RDAP?
We did that in RDAP. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we laid down on the table and everybody went around and wrote what we said to say about us, or after you're dead.
It's a big deal.
And I remember that. And that was a wake up.
I would imagine.
That was a wake up call.
Yeah. I read obituaries all the time. I do every Sunday.
Really?
I read all the
Once you
obituaries.
guys start getting way up there in age.
Well,
Man.
in New York, they do that so they can find an apartment that's open.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I've heard about that.
I look at the
Is that a
age.
real thing?
I look at the age when say someone so passed away. I think I'm old enough to die now. It's just like it keeps popping up.
So
But
Katrina
I'm
says,
feeling good.
Sally, I tell people that we are all just one bad decision away from going to prison.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Don't
Well,
you
a
think?
lot of people say that.
Yeah.
Well, don't you think the COVID taught people one thing? Is that they're all skating on the edge.
Everybody-
All it takes
Yeah.
is just one little thing to happen, and you can start sliding down a hill, and it's hard to get back up.
Yeah.
I think the COVID brought that realization to
Yeah,
people.
a lot of people thought they
people.
were doing great in life.
Everybody
until
until
they
that
missed
hit.
their paycheck.
So they realized that they only had enough money saved up for the next 2 or 3 months, and nobody can do after that.
Katrina says, my son lied on U.S. Customs documents and avoided tariffs and taxes. Bad decision. Sally says, great advice. Thank you. Tell your story and trust and believe in who you are. Forgive yourself.
Forgive
And,
yourself is
yeah,
huge.
that wasn't easy for me.
I've even met Christian people with tats that it's a big part of their lives, but if you talk to them, they'll say, "How can God know so much that they, billions of people and forgive everyone? And what I did was so bad." What I would say to these folks is, I said, and I was a chaplain at a hospital for several years. I would say, whether or not God or Jesus forgives you is above my pay grade. That's what I do know is there's one person whose forgiveness you need first before anything else can change. And I never have to finish that sentence. Everyone, they get it and they understand that's where it is. And
Right.
yeah.
Well, that's basically everybody's problem, isn't it? I mean, everybody in life has has some reason they can't forgive themselves. I've met very successful people who have all this regret and they can't forgive themselves for this or the way they treated their parents or whatever, they can't forgive their parents, And so forgiveness is like, it's a big thing.
I remember an 86-year-old woman who told me she was concerned about the afterlife and forgiveness, but she burnt the family Bible when she was 6 years old, 80 years before. But in a sickbed, she was telling me what she did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Part of the 12 steps. You guys, I don't know, are you guys in the 12 steps? You guys
I'm familiar with it.
So,
Yeah.
Step 4 is a
yourself,
difficult one.
Step
4 is not easy.
And step 8 and all that, or 9, but trying to make amends to somebody who I still haven't forgiven. Well, that's why they're in order.
Well, but the thing is, it's like Stanley was telling a story about the guy he almost stabbed. And so how many people carry around this guy that you just hate, and if you ever see him again, you're going to kill him. And Rory, actually, one of the guys that works with us, goes, I had this guy that I hated for 20 years, and I knew that next time I saw him, I'd kill him. Then he started realizing he didn't even know where the guy lived. He couldn't remember the guy's name, but he hated this guy, for his forever.
And it turns out Ronnie Rubin, should anyone hear this, know the name, but everyone loves the guy. He's one of the funniest people who ever lived on earth. He just did one thing that annoyed the hell out of me that one time.
Yeah.
And I was, mercurial.
That's what sends a lot of guys
out of
to
control. Prison. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I got guys on my channel that'll be watching that are going to be sentenced or already have been sentenced. You give them any advice on their first day in prison? Most of them are going to Lowe's and camps, so they don't really have to.
What is the question?
Well,
are you carrying where you're from?
Beat the crap out of them? No, I'm just kidding.
I tell you what I think is one thing to do is, you have to understand, you have to know what you mean by respect.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of guys don't know what respect is. They don't understand the meaning of it. Everybody has these weird ideas of what respect is in prison. But if you just go and be yourself in prison and, and you treat everybody the same, and you be who you are, but don't stray from that. Because, for instance, like, you meet guys in prison that are really into Christianity, right? But then next thing someone sees them shooting up,
right?
All of a sudden, that guy's a target.
Yeah, hypocrite.
They're a hypocrite,
Yeah.
So as long as you go to prison, you're not a hypocrite, and you treat everybody the same.
Like a man. If you conduct yourself like a man and
or a person,
carry yourself with honor, then you never have any problems.
Yeah, don't gossip about other guys.
Right.
You walk in there and you're respectful and you look people in the eye and you don't have any issues like that in there.
I usually tell them your hygiene too, and make sure you shower.
Yeah, that's
I have seen
and
issues
keep your
over
cell
that
clean
before.
because you're sharing that with somebody and you live with somebody.
That's all about respect.
Yeah, that's all respect.
Yes.
You have to start with respect for yourself for that one.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to respect
Same when you get out of prison. I mean, you still want your hygiene. You want to keep your house clean. I mean, where you keep your car clean if you have one. But you know what I mean.
Just washed my car today.
It's hard to go to prison for the first time.
It is.
But the problems that I always saw people having in there were problems of their own making. Right. People that did like underhanded things, ended up having problems or lied or, like you said, gossiped. Gossip gets you in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Just mind your own business.
I had an advantage when I went to prison. I didn't go to prison until I was 55, 56 for the first time.
If you're above that.
Yeah.
And so I had a business already. I knew how to deal with lots of different types of people. I had
So you're more
raised my
mature.
kids. Yeah. I wasn't 18 years old and didn't know anything about respect or how to get along with people or how to talk to people or but I mean, you figure your typical 18, 19-year-old kid, he doesn't know how to talk to adults even sometimes anymore. So
Right.
he doesn't understand language and how it can affect who you are, what happens to you.
Yeah. I got one more here. It looks like Sean, my dad used to make us write our mom's obituary if we were disrespectful to her.
Oh,
Whoa.
Yeah.
A lot of assignment, huh?
Jeez.
We don't recommend that as a child rearing
Yeah.
method.
I do want to take a minute, guys. Last week, I have a winner this week. So this is a homemade Pueblo that we make in our Wings Work project, and we're still hiring a couple people. Anybody out of prison in the Albuquerque area, our numbers on the screen there, our website. But the winner is Mary Briggs, and she joined our gold membership on our YouTube membership. So we have 3 levels of memberships. They start at $1.99. It's on the Wings for Life YouTube channel. It's not on the Federal Prison Talk channel. But you go to Wings for Life YouTube, there's a join button. 3 memberships. They start at $1.99. And the next member that signs up this week, we will give you this free Wings for Life t-shirt. Any level, the $1.99 and up level for the membership. You get lots of perks. They're all on there. We have a silver, a gold, and a premium membership. Hit the join button. It's really easy. It only take you about 2 minutes. We appreciate it. And we do this show every week to tell you where all your money goes, who works here behind the scenes. Oh, and we are giving out newsletters too. So anybody that signs up for membership, we have our quarterly newsletter that we will email out to you. Or if you get a gold membership, we will mail it directly to you. Once you sign up, we'll get a hold of you for that. Thank you guys very much for supporting Wings for Life. And now back to you. Yes. Just a word from our sponsor. So,
Well, it sounds like you got a great thing going here.
They do. They really do.
So it's like, how do you enjoy what you're doing?
man, I get to go to work. For one, I got the job because I went to prison.
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
Right.
But I got the job because I started a YouTube channel I told you about, trying to help the guys going through pretrial, what I answer their questions. But when I started the channel, some friends of mine, I was living in a sober living house in San Francisco, and I was paying $950 to share a bedroom with 3 guys. That's how much it is out there. But now I have my own apartment for $700 a month. But somebody told me when you started that channel, they go, you never know what doors are going to open.
Right.
And the Wings for Life door opened.
It's all about going
Because
to
of
the
that
door.
channel, I got to know Ann, and Ann was on my show. I was on hers. One thing led to another. Next, Ann's calling up my probation officer, getting permission she offered me a job, and then she called my probation officer, and they hit it off. And then I had to call the probation here, and then they let me come out for a weekend to kind of see what talk to probation here. One thing led to another, and it all happened. And now I get to go to work every day, hoping that somebody comes through that door that's like me, that really needs our help.
Well, you're
You know what I
talking
mean?
about CPSW,
Yeah.
and that's what a lot of CPSWs are. There are people that have been to prison, and there is a lot of jobs, because it's needed, So
So I'm 57. I'll be 58 next month, and I would have never thought in prison, what am I worth? I'm pushing 60, just out of prison, got nothing to show for myself, and then I get a call from people that watch my channel, or somebody comes through the door, and I get a purpose in life.
right.
All of a sudden, I have a reason to live, and that's why that's what I like what I do. Now I have a reason to live. I'm worth something because somebody else needs me or wants me or thanks me. So that's why I get up every day now.
Right.
And I didn't have that before I went to prison. It was all about who's got the biggest bag of dope I can get, or who can I hustle from, or
It's never enough.
yeah, or how can I I quitting this job, starting a new job. I couldn't hold down a job because it was getting in the way of my get high time. You know,
Right.
you know,
It's all about one person at a time.
Yeah,
I
right.
love this saying that I heard. I don't even know where I first heard it, but it goes something along the lines of, if you donated as much to your recovery as you did to your addiction, imagine the possibilities. Like, you know how much time and money and effort you donated to being an addict or to being a criminal or whatever. If you focus that amount of energy on being a positive life, like, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like that guy that came in, or remember the guy that was the car thief,
Yeah.
and he was in prison for stealing cars, and he was really good at it. But he said, God, if I had just been working all that time, I'd have a really nice car right now, but I don't. Oh man, I thought that was pretty funny.
It's funny. Some people fool themselves. They'll say, how I was making so much money and I can go to Vegas and blow 60,000 and it wouldn't mean anything, and all this and this. And then you say, take your top year and then take the 10-year sentence you did, divide it, and you were working for $1.29 an hour. The economics of it aren't what
Doesn't make sense.
They really don't make sense.
Yeah.
Although I could say this too, if you just turn things around a little bit, few changes, do the next right thing, or whatever phrase that people like. But I've seen someone leaves incarceration, zero kind of credit score, a history of violent behavior, 17 years of a drug addiction. And one of them, I performed a wedding for someone who married someone with a PhD in child psychology. They own a house. I just see that the one person we worked with was one of the first people came to us, did 40 years straight. And you can imagine his attitude of the 22-year-old who did what, the bank robbery, the shootout, and the escape. I mean, you really have to work at doing 40 years straight. But within a year, he was married, had a house near Silver City and a car. And it's just like a marvelous life, because the 60-some-year-old that left wasn't the same as the 22-year-old gang member who did the crazy ass stuff, But it's possible. We've seen it over and over again. People come to us and they come by to show you the car that's paid for.
Yeah, it's paid.
They show you
registration on it.
They show you the house. They have the business that they started.
And they actually have a driver's license.
And look, insurance.
I remember.
Insurance for this car. Yeah.
I remember
With my name on it.
Someone came, knocked on my door, and said that this is the first time I've driven legally in 12 years. It was like all sorts of stuff.
I've had guys that never had a driver's license.
I've had a lot of guys
Oh, yeah,
that
that-
had an
that-
identification card.
That's true. Yeah, that's
They
right.
never even had any sort of formal.
There's a question for you on there, Benjamin. Can you read that? It says, Benjamin, how did you reunite, make it up to your family when you got out?
I have a 17-year-old son. He's going to be 18 next month. And when I went to prison, he was a baby.
Ooh.
And when I was in prison, I was able to see him for the first couple of years when I was in there, and then I got shipped out. And so I wasn't able to see him for over 10 years. And I didn't pressure him to see me. I just showed him that, that I was going to be here. That I'm going to be here. And, words, sometimes words are air. You could say is whatever you want to say, but your actions, will say everything. And so just seeing, that this is going to be a different phase of life for me than anything I had ever did. It showed him. And so when I finally was able to see him was around the end of last year, beginning of this year. I had him for a week, and I hadn't seen him for over 10 years. And,
Wow.
I had never even really been with him on the street. So he just saw, like, the man that I've become.
And you saw the boy he became that you
yeah,
weren't really
for
part
real.
of
He's
it.
a man now too. He's gonna graduate from high school, and with the rest of my family, it's the same thing. They just see like the changes and stuff in me and how different I am than how I was 20 years ago or whatever to now. Like that, they're
Because you got to re-earn trust with family. Maybe you never even had it.
sure.
I'd say re-earn, but you actually
Earn it.
you earn it
Sure.
because you may have never had it.
Sure.
But to get that takes time. It's not going to happen by
It
next
does.
Tuesday.
You have to be patient. If you have children, I had a guy the other day that came in, and I just told him, like Gary said earlier, we tell our story all the time. So, and I just told him, I said, I can't tell you what you have to do, but I can tell you what I did, and hopefully by hearing what I did, it'll give you some idea. I said, if you've been in and out of prison your whole life and you've never been there, and you're trying to connect with your family, and they're thinking, well, it's the same old Bob or the same old Joe or the same old whoever, and you show them that it is different, and they'll see that, and that will make a huge difference, and it'll happen.
I've seen it. I knew an extreme case where the fellow's mother had a lifetime restraining order, and it was painful.
Lifetime restraining order. They actually have those.
Yes.
He had it. Yeah. And but somehow he drove by the neighborhood, just he was staying away, but she saw him and welcomed him, and so it changed after he was out maybe 5 or 6 years. There's another one I remember where the fella wrote to his daughter and mentioned what he was doing and described how he's changed his life. And she wrote back, and it was a thoughtful letter. It said, don't think just by changing your life a little bit or telling me about it that we could just pick up as if there was never this long interruption.
Right.
And it turned out, I think within a year or two, she had some sort of fight with her mother and asked to move in with the guy. And they have a very, very, very nice relationship, and it's mature and appropriate and loving, But
those are like the miracles that happen, when they happen from in prison too. But when you get out, that's the stuff that keeps me going. That's the good stuff.
It's tough. But if you were the kid who started a fire at age 6 and took $20 bills out of your mom's purse and did this, and this, or had a violent temper and would push someone around and terrorize your little brother or sister, the family has a right to try to protect other people. But over time, you're not that person. We change. I mean, if you saw a baby picture of you, Sean, you wouldn't recognize it. I once showed a woman friend of mine a picture, and I even had a goatee, and I thought it was attractive. She said, "Why are you showing me that? Who is it?" I said, "That's me at age 30." But she looked at it forever and couldn't figure out. It was just in the drawer. But we change. We're not the same. We're not permanent features. We're evolving. That's why when you say an apostrophe, there's the rest of the story.
Yeah.
How do you want your story to end? And it's like, I'm going to be remembered as a good guy who did nice things for people, who love my family. That's it. Doesn't have to be much greater than that.
So now what would they say at your funeral? What would it say on your tombstone now? Good things, right?
That he hopefully they would say that he worked at helping trying to change people's lives. Because one thing I've learned in this job is that people do change, and they are capable of changing. But the only thing is you have to get them into that stage of change. There are some guys that you can show lead to the biggest pool of water, and they're not going to drink from it. But if you can get a guy over that pool of water, he starts to drink from it, and you can give him some more resources to keep him going, then you can see them change, and you can see them do better. I mean, it's awesome the amount of people that we've seen change. They have a job, and they got their apartment, and they're living straight lives, and they understand, that hard work is nothing comes easy, and it's great.
So I have a little joke about that. How many
Oh.
psychiatrists does it take to change a light bulb?
Just
It really
one.
doesn't matter. The light bulb has to want to change.
Right.
And then if the light bulb,
Right.
then you can help change. Then you can help the light bulb.
Right.
Yeah, that's.
I think when I was last on, you said any final advice, but talking about change, the one predictor I would say that makes it going to be really hard if someone has a lot of anger and resentment, and it's always there every time you see them.
Yeah.
They're really hard to reach. So if anyone's out there listening to this and they still feeling they were mistreated and life isn't fair and there's someone they hate that they want to get even with, it's the poison, not for the person you hate, but it's making your own life and change much more difficult.
And life isn't always fair.
Life. Oh, I said that to my kids. Yeah. If we ever heard our kids say that, we say, whoever said life's going to be fair,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
It's just about a time for an hour. So let me ask each one of you guys words of wisdom, final advice for people out there. I'll start with you, Gary.
You were talking about families a minute ago and the relationships out of prison. I always tell guys, keep writing letters. Even if they're not responding to you, you keep writing those letters because you're doing your part to get back with them. And now you've put that on their shoulders to get back to you.
I like that.
You know,
That's good advice.
I like that.
I think you can't take care of anybody until you can learn to take care of yourself too. You got to learn how to take care of yourself. So,
right. Can't love yourself.
You can't love anybody or take care of people until you can learn to take care of yourself, and then everything else will fall into place. So.
My
Stanley?
best, I think, my best overall advice, if you want to call it advice, is really stay with love in your heart and don't interpret things personally. Just expect the best from folks, and you'll see a hell of a lot more of it.
I want to thank each and every one of you guys for coming down here. That's bestchancen.org, and the numbers on the website. Guys, leave comments, and if you do, I'll get back to these guys. Call them up if you need them. Thank you guys so much for coming
Thanks for
down.
doing
Thank you.
this.
Thanks for having
It
us.
was
man.
great.
Maybe we can have you on
Appreciate it.
again
Yeah.
and stuff and all that. Thank you, Stanley.
Great pleasure.
YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, like, and try out one of our memberships. It's for a good cause. It's tax deductible. We'll send you the form. Anyways, thank you. God bless everyone.